Hello, I'm Daniel Stonecipher with Engineering Trust Boundaries and a board member and advisor of the IT community of IFMA. We welcome you to day 4 of the FM Tech Week 2026 presented by Schneider Electric. This session is brought to you by LandTech. It's my pleasure sincerely to introduce Chris Lorrain, Katie Iles, and Gökçe Özçelik as they take us through their insightful session titled Indoor Mapping, the Foundation for Safer, Smarter Facilities. As always, we appreciate everyone joining us today. And I say, LandTech team, take it away.
Okay. Thanks, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today and tuning into our session. You're only going to hear from me for about 2 minutes here. We're going to hear from the experts, but I just want to do a quick introduction of LandTech. We are a engineering and geospatial company. We've been around for about 36 years. One of our specialties that we have heavily gotten into is technology with digital twins, reality capture, 3D modeling, and integration within the 3D models of the information necessary for digital twins. We've heard a lot of presentations over the last few days of various technologies which are utilized with digital twins and which help in the facility management environment. But where do all those technologies live and where do they start? In order to start and utilize those technologies to their full advantage, generally we need to have accurate existing conditions. You know the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. Well, let's get rid of the garbage. And we need to have existing floor plans, existing models, depending upon how you want to interact with your information. That all needs to be accurate from the beginning, as well as it's more or less the glue that holds all of these technologies together. Let's bring them into that electronic file cabinet so that we can easily access that information. This presentation is going to show you how to do that and how we utilize Esri technology to bring you complete informative digital twins that assist in the facility management of your particular facility, no matter what it may be. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Gökçe, and she will take it from here, and we'll give you a little introduction of what we do.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm Gökçe Özçelik. I'm the product manager for indoor GIS capabilities at Esri. Founded more than 5 decades ago on the conviction that geography science could help people make better decisions, Esri is the world's leading GIS software company, empowering more than 400,000 organizations in 200 countries with the ArcGIS platform to visualize, analyze, and act on the challenges that matter the most. And geography is the lens through our technology that empowers communities, organizations, and leaders to see clearly, think deeply, and act decisively. We deliver technology that transforms raw data into geographic understanding and ultimately into meaningful action. With that, I will kick off our session. Here's our agenda. We have 5 sections today. We will start with why indoor GIS, then we will talk about patterns of use. We will have a system components discussion, indoor mapping in action, and we will close with the big picture with key takeaways. And before we start with why indoor GIS, let's take a minute for our live poll question. So our first question for you is, while I speak, please go ahead and start voting. How are you currently managing your indoor building data? There's a lot of data out there, right? But primarily maybe your floor plan data and other types of data. And you can choose all the options that apply. Are you mostly using CAD drawings or BIM models? Maybe you have PDFs, right? Maybe you're coming across rolled up blueprints. And, maybe you have data in other disconnected systems that are not in a centralized place. Or maybe you have a centralized facility management platform. If not any of these, there might be other options out there, right? But we would love to know where you're at. And we come across, a good mix of these options, and you will hear more about how the indoor building data has been out there and how people are managing it or trying to manage it, especially owners and operators, throughout our presentation. But let's take a minute to... Perfect, the poll results are here. Interesting. This is pretty aligned with, what we come across often. Having multiple disconnected systems is leading, and it's encouraging to see you already have centralized systems as well. So super. Now let's start with why indoor GIS. As you all know, every infrastructure project involves a wide and diverse set of stakeholders: planners, architects, engineers, contractors, project managers, operators, and eventually the people who occupy and maintain the facility. But the challenge is that valuable information is created at every stage of the life cycle. A critical context gets lost at handoffs in between, moving from planning to design to construction and eventually operations. But excuse me, by the time operations phase start, where most of a facility's cost and value live, there is a major gap in the operational records of a facility that's caused by these data silos. And then these silos cause owners and operators to face challenges when trying to use their building data to manage their facilities, because that data is also fragmented across various sources in PDFs, sometimes rolled up blueprints, CAD drawings, BIM models, formats that weren't designed to function as a living system of record for building operations. And in some cases, this data might be dated or missing altogether. And GIS closes that gap. By anchoring fragmented information in location, it becomes a common language that connects data across the infrastructure lifecycle. Location and GIS are foundational for digital twins. And indoor GIS is becoming foundational for operational digital twins of facilities, especially for space and building management. Facility owners and operators, AEC firms, and other users can integrate diverse data streams to their operational digital twins with ArcGIS. And why? Why do we care so much about indoor GIS, right? Well, we spend about 90% of our time indoors for various activities such as working, learning, traveling, receiving healthcare, and other services. And even though it's common to use maps to make informed decisions, there's still a vast amount of indoor geography that remains unmapped. Not only that, facilities are becoming larger, smarter, and more complex. Institutional knowledge is leaving with retiring staff, so skilled labor shortage is increasing. And teams are expected to manage more buildings with fewer resources. Safety expectations continue to increase, and owners and operators need better visibility across their facilities. And they are looking for a solution to help them operationalize their indoor data. To address the needs related to indoor spaces, we have built indoor GIS capabilities into ArcGIS. And indoor GIS starts with indoor mapping. ArcGIS Indoors enables foundational indoor map creation. From floor plans retrieved from your BIM, CAD, LiDAR, most recently PDF and other data, serves as a comprehensive record-keeping system for indoor spaces. Earlier this week, Paul Doherty mentioned in his session that buildings are moving from static assets to living systems, and performance is now defined by continuous data. I couldn't agree more. And this is how indoor GIS turns static building data into a living system for operations, connecting buildings, people, assets, and operational data in one place on one map, which is becoming foundational for operational digital twins. Indoor GIS gives owners and operators a living indoor system for visualizing, analyzing, managing, and navigating facilities. You can layer on real-time IoT data, and the operational picture becomes more dynamic. You can then connect this data into dashboards that show you assets, work orders, spaces, where your staff are, environmental systems integrated on one view. And you can keep evolving your living operational twins by feeding sensor data, video streams, and other data enriched by GIS and visualized in ways that empower your operations and maintenance decision making. Now we will quickly take a look at indoor GIS patterns of use, which reflect what our users are looking to do with indoor GIS across various markets. But before that, we'll take another pause, wait for a minute, and then fill out, our survey question. So our question for you before we go into the details of patterns of use are, what would deliver the most value if you had a comprehensive indoor digital view of your facilities? Is it improving asset management workflows like maintenance and inspections? Is it better space management, including space utilization, workplace planning, being able to make workspace reservations? Is it enhancing safety, security, and emergency planning and response? Or is it improving occupant and visitor experiences like wayfinding and workspace reservations? Or maybe there are other use cases you're coming across. Let's wait for everyone to vote, and I'm very curious to see which of these resonate the most with the audience, where you see the most value in terms of your use of indoor GIS or your use of an indoor digital view of your facilities. All right. Perfect. Improving asset management workflows like maintenance and inspections is what the majority of our audience voted for, 55%. And that's what we are coming across most often as well, and followed by space management and then enhanced safety and security. I'm surprised no votes are there for occupant and visitor experiences, so maybe this presentation will open a window for you to get a little more familiar with other use cases out there and might help with, continuing on those patterns as well. So, in general, what we have seen among our customers remains consistent for patterns of use. Asset management, space management, safety and security, and occupant and visitor experiences. Asset management is about giving teams the ability to map, find, inspect, and service indoor assets in a floor-aware context on a floor-aware map. And then when we talk about space management, we're talking about turning floor plans into space intelligence for planning, workspace reservations, departmental planning, assignments, office moves. And then when we talk about safety and security, we're focusing on improved situational awareness during emergency planning and response with updated floor plans that show exits, routes, ingress, egress points, and other operational context. And occupant and visitor experience. Although it didn't receive enough love from you today, so maybe in the future it will, occupant and visitor experience supports helping people orient themselves within a space, helping them search, explore, route, and reserve indoor spaces, giving them tools like indoor positioning for being able to do turn-by-turn navigation, right? Indoor GIS helps facilities address the various needs related to indoor spaces, leveraging ArcGIS Indoors product components. At the center is ArcGIS, our modern GIS platform. Foundational to ArcGIS are ArcGIS Online, our cloud SaaS environment, and then ArcGIS Enterprise, a self-hosted enterprise environment. and ArcGIS Pro, a desktop mapping software. Indoors Pro creates the maps and routable networks for wayfinding and navigation. And then we have configurable web apps, template apps. Indoors Viewer for occupants and visitors to search, explore, and route to points of interest. And it can also run on a kiosk, touchscreen kiosk mode. Then Space Planner is for planning, managing, optimizing indoor spaces. And we have our floor plan editor application, which is a simple web application that creates new floor plans and help keep the existing ones up to date, which is also well positioned for supporting non-GIS users in their journey for mapping, for indoor mapping specifically. And Indoors Mobile does all that Viewer does, plus it interfaces with indoor positioning and integrates with other applications on the device. And with third-party system integrations plus our partner network, Indoor GIS is extended into the other areas of business operations, building operations as well. In terms of what we can do with Indoor GIS, there's a lot to cover, but today I want to draw attention to a hot topic that has become part of facilities' day-to-day lives very quickly, and that is indoor reality. Indoor GIS is becoming more immersive. So far with ArcGIS Indoors, we have enabled our users to create floor plans from their point cloud data, as well as bring 360 imagery to their indoor maps. And expanding on our earlier work, now we are making immersive indoor reality easier to bring into everyday workflows. That creates value for facility teams and others. ArcGIS Indoors now offers a new tool that converts 360-degree video with georeferenced imagery. A person can walk a building with a consumer-grade 360 camera like Insta360 or GoPro. And this consumer-grade cameras cost between $300 to $500 roughly, and this is orders of magnitude cheaper than commercial-grade, high-precision reality capture hardware. And the barrier to immersive indoor reality drops dramatically for those who don't need high-precision reality capture, and the workflow fits naturally into existing facility practices. Rather than talk about it, let's see a demonstration. Sophie from our Indoors product team has created a video that demonstrates this workflow for us. She will walk through the end-to-end workflow from video capture to immersive indoor exploration.
The ArcGIS Indoors team created a tool that allows customers to take a standard, off-the-shelf 360-degree camera and turn it into floor-aware-oriented imagery, grounded in the real world for GPS-deprived environments, such as inside buildings. This starts with consumer-grade, off-the-shelf 360-degree cameras like Insta360s or GoPro Maxes, roughly $300. No specialized sensors, no custom hardware, no survey rigs. This makes indoor capture easy to scale, not just limited to specialists. Here's what capture looks like in practice. Someone simply walking through the building with a camera. If you can hold a camera and move through interior spaces, you can create this data. No training required, no interruption to operations. Once captured, the video is brought directly into ArcGIS Pro. This is full 360-degree video. The next step is where it becomes GIS. Using our 360 video to oriented imagery tool, we provide control points, and the tool uses VSLAM to geolocate the video and extract frames into a floor-aware oriented imagery dataset. We can use the oriented imagery viewer to explore our data in ArcGIS Pro, then publish it up for use in web maps and apps. Because this imagery is floor-aware, it's tied directly to building levels. We can move between floors and immediately see imagery that belongs on that floor, aligned with our floor plans. Here's that same imagery inside Indoors Viewer. This is where it becomes operational. Teams can visually understand spaces for space planning, facility management, occupant experience and workplace operations, and day-to-day decision-making without needing to physically visit the site. Because it's an oriented imagery layer, it can be reused across the entire ArcGIS platform. Here's the same floor-aware map in Map Viewer, where I can use the oriented imagery viewer and its tools.
And you can use this walkthrough and oriented images to visualize how spaces and assets change over time. You can create oriented imagery layers for construction walkthroughs, then continue add as construction progresses, eventually moves into operations, giving facility teams valuable insights into progress visibility and coordination. Before Katie takes over, here is a QR code for more resources, and you'll have access to this in the resources tab as well. But if you scan a QR code, we will stay connected. There's a way to subscribe for our newsletter, and you'll see our case studies and more resources we created for you. With that, I will hand it over to Katie, and she will walk us through indoor mapping in action.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Gökçe. So now that we've talked about what indoor GIS is and the patterns that we see driving this adoption, I wanted to shift gears a little bit into what this actually looks like in practice, because that's where things really start to get interesting. And before I walk through some of these examples, I did want to show you something that we put together ourselves, because one of the questions that we hear a lot is, how hard is this actually to get started? And the honest answer is, it's a lot easier than people think. So just like what Gökçe was mentioning before, we used a consumer-grade 360 camera that we bought off the shelf at Best Buy to capture our own office, and we brought those images into ArcGIS Indoors. And we georeference them to our floor plan. And then what you ultimately get is a navigable, floor-aware view of the interior that anyone on your team can use right away. There's no specialized hardware, and there's not a long implementation timeline. So we can go and take a look. And so here we captured our own office, and we brought these into ArcGIS Indoors, and you can see that they're live the exact same day. We just had Regina, one of our lead analysts, walk through the office with the camera, and you can see that the integrated 360 photos into Indoors was automatically taken and then georeferenced at the same time. So there's no stopping, no manual placement, and the time savings are really significant. Super neat. Awesome. All right, so next we want to talk about the use cases across the industries. So when you start to look across industries, a few things really start to stand out. We have schools and universities that use indoor GIS for things like campus navigation, space planning, emergency preparedness, and then utilities are mapping complex facilities, monitoring sensor data in real time, and coordinating field crews. Airports are managing massive high volume environments with wayfinding, maintenance, operational awareness across all the terminals. And on the government and corporate side, it's space utilization with hybrid workplace planning and facility modernization. But the one thing that cuts across all of these is institutional knowledge. Organizations everywhere are dealing with an aging workforce, and when experienced people retire, they walk out the door with that knowledge as well. So, where the valve is to shut off, where the electrical panels are, those are the things that live inside people's head, and indoor GIS is what helps put them on the map. So what all these industries are really trying to answer is the same question. What's happening inside the buildings, and how do I manage it better? And indoor GIS is how we get there. So first, we're going to take a look at education facilities. So education spaces, and for this example, we're going to talk about higher education, is a space where we've done a lot of work. And I think it's one of the most interesting use cases because the needs are so varied. One of the projects that we're most proud of at LandTech is one that we did for University of Denver. This came to us, University of Denver came to us needing to manage space more effectively across their campus. They wanted to track how rooms are being used and what they were actually allocated for. And so what we built for them was a suite of tools that let their facilities teams do things like assign grant numbers directly to rooms, classify rooms by functional use, and then actually generate reports that they needed for federal space surveys. And then even beyond space planning, we're also seeing universities use indoor GIS for things like change management, when departments move, when buildings get renovated, and for campus navigation. Emergency preparedness is also another big one. We want to have accurate, up-to-date floor plans that first responders can access, and is it increasingly becoming a requirement, and it's no longer just a nice to have. So speaking of safety, this is one of the fastest growing drivers of indoor GIS adoption, and I want to spend a moment on it as it applies across every industry on this slide. Indoor GIS gives first responders that information that they need to act quickly, so having things like accurate point of interest data, routing between and within facilities, and real-time access to safety equipment locations. All of this can live inside of our indoor map. And we're also seeing organizations use it for things like work order and inspection management tied directly to locations within the building as well. And for 360 imagery, like what we saw earlier, it's starting to play a bigger role here. So capturing what a space actually looks like so that both field staff and emergency responders can orient themselves. The bottom line is when something goes wrong, people need to be able to move fast, and the indoor GIS makes that possible. So a next one is transportation hubs, namely airports are one of the most complex facility environments you can work in. I like to consider them like a mini city. You have passengers, staff, tenants, contractors, and operations all happening simultaneously in one space. Indoor GIS addresses the complexity on multiple fronts. So we have the passenger side, so things like wayfinding, people want to be able to find the nearest Starbucks to their gate, be able to find their baggage claim, things like that. And on the operations side, it's asset mapping, so maintenance coordination and emergency asset visibility. And on the business side, we have things like leasehold management and office space planning within the terminal. And what makes airports compelling is the scale. So when you get indoor GIS right in an environment like that, the impact is very significant. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about water treatment plants. So water utilities is a use case that I think surprises people because when you think of indoor mapping, people picture office buildings or hospitals, but water treatment plants are very complex facilities and they have a lot to be mapped within them. So we had the opportunity to work with Pennachuck Waterworks in New Hampshire on exactly this kind of challenge. And so they found that a big problem was that their facilities were underrepresented in the GIS. Assets existed in simple maps, but they really wanted to bring this into more of an indoor digital mapping capacity. So what we built for them was a 3D digital twin, starting with 3 facilities and including a main water treatment plant and 2 pump stations. We used laser scanning to capture them with millimeter level precision, and then we brought these into a 3D model in the GIS. We're able to integrate it with their existing enterprise systems and asset management. And then and the existing management system, and then their SCADA platform for real-time operational data. So the result for that was for the first time they were able to see their asset in 3D and all of the maintenance history along with it, including live sensor readings, and be able to initiate work orders as well, all from the same interface. And so as we're continuing to work with some of the largest water and power facilities to develop their programs as well, and Pennachuck is already looking to expand this digital twin to more facilities across their system. Next, we have local and county government, which is another area where indoor GIS is gaining a lot of traction. So think about what a county manages. They have courthouses, administrative buildings, libraries, public work facilities, and that's a lot of square footage that needs managing. So the indoor GIS helps those teams connect their indoor and outdoor data into one picture. And so this supports public wayfinding for constituents, coordinate across departments, and also meet compliance requirements for ADA accessibility. We've done work with Chatham County in North Carolina, which helps them get started with the CAD to indoors data conversion. And what was interesting about this project is that they had strong GIS expertise in-house, but they needed to get the path to get their building data into a format that the indoor GIS could use, which is often a very common starting point, and it's very achievable. All right, so the big picture. So let me leave you with this. So indoor GIS is becoming essential infrastructure. It's not a future initiative, it's not a nice to have, and organizations across every industry are building into it right now because the pressure to manage these facilities better and faster is not going away. And what I hope you're taking away from this today is the 4 patterns of use that we've talked about: safety and emergency response, asset management, space planning, and occupant and visitor experience. These aren't 4 separate problems requiring 4 separate tools. They are all addressed the same way with the Indoor Data Foundation. The foundation also gets institutional knowledge off of people and onto a map. When experienced staff retire or move on, what they knew stays with the organization. And some of what felt years away is materializing right now. So make sure to catch Project Adra's session tomorrow. Billy and his team are using AI and photogrammetry to automatically process imagery and build out spatial data for a facility condition assessment, which can then be visualized within the indoor GIS like what we saw here. But again, none of this works without the Indoor Data Foundation in place first, and the organizations building it now will be ready for everything that comes next.
Fantastic. I see we had some great Q&A. And of course, you can follow up with the LandTech and Esri teams. Great presentation as always. Thank you again to LandTech and Esri for sharing these valuable insights and showcasing great examples of the power of GIS, LiDAR scanning, and digital twin creation, and accessing that great information through these great real-world use cases. I appreciate everyone joining us today. Look forward to seeing you during our next FM Tech Week 2026 session tomorrow, June 19th at 9 a.m. Pacific, with the incomparable Brett Spindler from Schneider Electric. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.